had seen already all the principles of electromechanical energy conversion. Now we are going to start actually on motors and generators. So when we are talking about generator, we are going to use Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So this essentially says whatever we had seen in transformer, the same thing holds good here also, which is saying n d phi by dt equal to E. So whenever we need generation of a voltage, we need rate of change of flux. This can be done in different ways. For example, if you look at a DC generator, what we have is a field system in the stator, that is the magnetic field is created in the stator. So the magnetic field is stationary, this is going to be stationary. So because of which we are going to actually have a bouquet of conductors or a collection of conductors which is known as armature. This is actually going to be housed in the rotor. So this is going to be rotated, this is going to be rotated with the help of prime mover. So the prime mover conductors, they are going to look at this magnetic field as though it is having a rate of change. So the rate of change of the flux is created by the conductors which are moving, and these look at the entire magnetic flux which is actually constant. This is not going to have any variation in the flux at all. So magnetic field is constant. This is going to be visualized as the change in flux. So this is going to induce an EMF. So that is going to result in whatever is the generated EMF. We can have a different thing like a transformer, for example, where we are going to actually create an alternating flux. Because it is an alternating flux, we will have definitely a d phi by dt created, although there are no moving parts. There are no moving parts at all. The entire d phi by dt is created essentially by the alternating flux which is having a d phi by dt. So this is also inducing an EMF, but this is inducing an EMF in the secondary, and that is also essentially due to the electromagnetic induction. The third type of the generator action or EMF induction action can happen in an AC machine, be it an induction machine or synchronous machine. There what happens is, I am going to have actually a magnetizing flux which is also sinusoidal. So still you will have a d phi by dt, no doubt. So this d phi by dt is essentially going to create, an induced EMF, no doubt. But apart from that, there can be a rotor which is also rotating. So if you look at a synchronous machine, you are going to have a flux which is DC flux, whereas if it is an induction machine, you are going to have a sinusoidal flux. So we can have simultaneously a rate of change of flux because of sinusoidal flux, as well as we can have a rotor which is visualizing the flux as a modified flux or rate of change of flux because of the rotor position itself is changing. So we can have simultaneously transformer action as well as DC generator action. That is what happens in an AC machine. But now we are primarily going to concentrate on, mainly on the DC machine. So let us actually proceed somewhat like this in a DC machine. We are going to look at first of all the constructional details in a DC machine, which is common to both the motor as well as generator. So we will look at both motor and generator. So we should look at the constructional details. We will also look at Fleming's rule, which is left hand and right hand rule, which will give us exactly the direction of induced EMF or induced current, right, and it will also give us the direction of force or torque if we are talking about motor. So, this is for motor and this is for generator. For generator, we will normally use right hand rule, Fleming's right hand rule, whereas for motor we will use left hand rule. So, these two we will be looking at. Then after that we will be looking at exactly what is the difference between slip rings and split rings. So, slip rings are normally used in AC motor or AC machine, whereas split rings are normally used in DC machines. So, we will look at both of them, after which we will be looking at specifically winding arrangement in a DC machine. So, this is what we are going to cover in this particular lecture. So, winding arrangement specifically in a DC machine, this is what we are going to look at. Okay. First of all, we should know that in any machine we will require two systems. Unless there are two systems, it is not going to work very well, because we will require first of all mechanical energy to be given, and that is going to be converted into electrical energy or vice versa. This is what we talked about when we talked about electromechanical energy conversion. But this happens always through a magnetic wire media, right. So, if we require a magnetic wire media, first of all I will need a field system which will create the magnetic field, and whenever electrical energy is ultimately given out in a generator or electrical energy is taken in a motor, this will be through a bouquet of conductors which is generally known as the armature system. In a DC machine, field is located in the stator, whereas in the armature system is located in the rotor. So, stator is going to have the field and armature will be housed in the rotor. This is what is generally the DC machine structure. So, if I try to look at the DC machine, I am going to have the field system somewhat like this. This is my field system. You can say maybe this is north pole, this is going to be south pole, and it is going to actually be the stator. So, it will be the external cylinder. So, you can imagine as though it is extending into the board. So, it is essentially going inside the board, and we are going to have essentially, if it is an electromagnet, we will have conductors here. So, conductors here as well. So, you can imagine as though the conductors are going into the board like this. So, if I am going to have dot here and cross here, obviously according to the right hand rule, that is screw rule, I can say basically the magnetic field lines are going to go like this. So, if I have a magnetic field line like this, it will actually complete its path through this. So, this is how the magnetic field lines are going to go. This is how the magnetic field lines are. Okay. So, if it is like this, now I can say basically just to complete the magnetic circuit path, I will need electromagnetic ferromagnetic substance which is actually known as the yoke region. So, this is yoke, this is also yoke, and these are going to be the field. So, these are the poles basically. So, this is the north pole and this is the south pole. So, I have shown a two pole machine. Now, because I have the magnetic field here, if I put a conductor here, let us say there is one conductor and here and one conductor here, you can imagine as though the conductor is going inside and it has to turn around and then it has to come through this portion, and ultimately here I am going to connect maybe the load will be connected here, right. This portion is outside the purview of the magnetic field. You can imagine that the pole is going here. So, this shaded portion is essentially the pole. Similarly, this is going to go inside. So, this will extend only as long as the cylinder is there. After that, the conductor, whatever portion here, this portion is essentially folding up and then coming out like this. So, this portion is known as the overhang portion. So, the overhang portion of the conductor is not going to be useful as far as the electricity generation is concerned or torque production is concerned, because this is beyond the purview of the magnetic field. So, you can imagine basically that if I am going to have the magnetic pole like this, I am going to have the magnetic pole extending only until the machine ends. After that, wherever I have the conductor is going to bend like this and then come back like this. This overhang portion becomes useless, but it is a necessary evil, because otherwise I will not be able to get the conductor back. Now, if I look at one conductor side here, the other conductor side here, together this entire thing is known as one turn, complete turn. So, one turn consists of two conductors. Two conductors make up for one turn. Let us say I am going to rotate this rotor, which is actually, the rotor is going to be somewhat like this. Let me draw the whole thing here. So, this is actually the magnetic pole. This is completing its, the circle, whatever is the cross section here. I am going to have the rotor here. So, rotor is going to have slots in the external periphery like this. You can imagine this is what is the rotor stamping. So, several stampings together are going to be stuck together ultimately to make the rotor. So, I am going to have, if there is one conductor here, exactly opposite I will have one more conductor here. So, let me consider only two conductors here. Now, the rotor will have a shaft in the middle, and this is going to be rotated with the help of a prime mover. So, this is the direction of rotation. Let us say the speed is omega. Okay? Now, this is the north pole and this is the south pole. So, I am going to have the magnetic field lines going like this, right? Now, Fleming's left hand rule actually tells me for the motor operation, which is going to be the torque direction, and Fleming's right hand rule essentially tells me something like this. So, let me explain Fleming's right hand rule. So, in the right hand rule, I am going to have, let us say, the magnetic field like this. This is the magnetic field, and probably this is going to be the direction of rotation. Then in that case, I am going to have the current induced in this direction. So, this is the magnetic field direction, right? And this is going to be essentially the direction of rotation, right? In which case I am going to have essentially the current direction like this. Okay? So, in which case I can say, if I am looking at the magnetic field direction like this, so this is the magnetic field direction which is opposite of the magnetic field direction I have shown here, and I am going to look at the direction of rotation somewhat like this, so which is actually perpendicular. So, I am showing this as the direction of rotation. So, let me take a conductor here which is actually showing a vertical direction of rotation. So, if I say this is the x axis and this is the y axis, the other one is the z axis. So, z axis will show me the current either going into the board or coming out of the board. So, I can say if the current direction is showing like this, here this is going to be dot and this is going to be cross. Let me explain it once again, separately drawing a diagram, okay, somewhat like this. I am going to have actually the magnetic field direction like this. This is the magnetic field direction, right? And I am going to show actually along the y axis maybe the movement direction or force, in which case I am going to have actually the current direction somewhat like this. This is perpendicular to this. This is the z axis. So, this is the current direction. Okay? So, I can look at it again when I had the magnetic field here. This is the north pole and this is the south pole, I am going to have the magnetic field direction here like this. This is the magnetic field direction, and I am going to have, let us say, one conductor here and another conductor here, and I am talking about the direction of rotation in this way. So, if I look at the direction of rotation, it will tangentially look like this here, tangentially look like this here, right. So, if I am going to have the direction of rotation like this, I am going to have the current which is actually coming out. This is showing a direction of current coming out, and whenever we look at the current, we look at it like an arrowhead like this. If arrowhead I am visualizing from here, it will be a dot. If I am looking at the arrowhead from here, it is going to be a cross. So, I am going to have dot here whereas cross here. So, this is going to be the direction of current basically. So, if I am looking at a conductor like this, I can say the current goes inside like this and comes out like this. This is how it is going to be, right. So, I am going to see the current the current will come out like this and it will go in like this. We are looking at the arrow like this. So, that is why this is going to be a cross and this is going to be a dot, right. The same way, when I am looking at actually the conductor actually rotating like this, after some time this conductor will reach here and this conductor will reach here. So, the current, if I look at it actually along this, it is going to be an alternating current. If I call this conductor as A and this conductor as B, I am going to see an alternating current continuously going through B and A, because for some time I am going to see that B is under the influence of south pole. After some time, the same conductor will be rotated by 180 degrees, because of which it will occupy the position of A. So, you would see that the current has become cross. So, you would see that B itself will be carrying dot current and cross current and so on and so forth, whereas A will be carrying again cross current and dot current and so on and so forth. So, if I try to collect the current directly from these two, I am going to see that I will get only alternating current. So, that will not work really if I want to really construct a DC machine. So, what I will do is, normally this particular conductor will be connected to a ring and this particular conductor will also be connected to a ring. So, these two rings will be connected along with the shaft. So, normally these rings are known as slip ring. So, in an alternating current machine, normally we use slip ring, and along with slip ring we will be having brushes. So, these brushes will be fixed or they will be stationary. So, brushes are stationary. The magnetic field will also be stationary. So, magnetic field along with brushes will be stationary, because magnetic field is essentially located in the stator. So, this is also stationary, whereas the conductor will be rotating and simultaneously the slip rings will also be rotating. So, to reiterate, what are the rotating parts? The rotating parts are going to be slip ring. Along with that, I will also have conductors. Whereas, what are the stationary parts? The stationary parts are going to be the poles or magnetic poles or magnetic field, and I am also going to have the brushes which are stationary. Now, if I am going to have the brushes collect the current, I will be able to actually make an external connection with the resistance. So, this is my load. So, load I can connect directly, that will be possible, but I will have alternating current supplied to these loads, because if you look at it, the conductors are continuously changing polarity, the slip rings will be changing polarity, the brushes which are actually pressed against the slip rings to collect the current, they will also be changing polarity. Sometimes this will be positive and this will be negative, then after some time this will become negative and this will become positive. So, it will be alternating. So, I do not want this to happen in a DC machine. So, what I will do is, if I am going to have the conductor here, I am going to have a ring, only one single ring. That ring will be actually having two portions, which are insulated from each other. So, this is going to be made up of mica, this will also be made up of mica. Let us say this is conductor A and this is conductor B. So, conductor A will be connected to this portion of the split ring which I am calling as A, and this portion of the split ring, please note this is split ring because the ring is split into two portions and they are insulated from each other with mica. So, I am going to have essentially this portion of the split ring is known as B. Now, I am going to have one brush, let us say, connected here and another brush connected here. The brushes are made up of carbon which are little soft material, whereas the split ring will be made up of copper and mica. Mica is meant for insulation and the copper is essentially brazed or welded with the conductors. So, now I am going to have again the split ring will be rotating. So, whenever A is under the influence of split ring, I will have split ring portion of A also is going to be, both these things are going to be positive. Whereas, the brush which is actually connected to this particular split ring portion A, that is fixed stationarily. So, that will also be connected to the positive side. Whereas, when I am going to have this B rotating on to the other side, along with that, this small portion that is B of the split ring, that would have also rotated to the other side. So, I would rather show B is here, A is here, which has rotated by 180 degrees. Now, if I look at the split ring, I am going to have the split ring also connected like this. So, this is going to have B and this is going to have A. This has rotated along with the conductor. Now, this brush, let me call this as B1 and this as B2, but B1 would still remain here. That would not have changed its position, and I would have had similarly B2 is still remaining here. So, this is split ring A now which is connected to B2. Previously, B was connected to B2 and A was connected to B1. Now, B is connected to B1 and B2 is connected to A. So, if you look at this, still it will be positive and this will be negative. So, if I look at the affiliation of B1 and B2 respectively, I am going to have always B1 under the influence of North Pole and B2 under the influence of South Pole. So, I am going to have negative here and positive here. This is how it is going to be. So, split ring and brush arrangement works like a rectifier. It essentially is converting the alternating current in the conductors of the armature in a DC machine to DC. So, AC to DC conversion is done automatically by using split rings and brushes, right. So, this is the basic working as far as the DC machine is concerned. But I am not going to have just two conductors, I am going to have multiple number of conductors. So, that is why what I will do is to have several number of conductors connected together. So, I will have essentially the split ring divided into multiple number of copper segments which are insulated by mica. So, I am going to have multiple segments like this and each of them is actually insulated with mica. Do you get my point? So, each of this is going to be mica and these are going to be copper segments, right. So, now I am going to see that the conductors, each of the conductors are going to be connected like this. You are going to have the conductor connected like this. Of course, they will go round and round because of the overhang portion. So, let me try to draw the winding diagram also towards the end. But right now, I am essentially looking at the generator action. So, just to repeat, the generator action works as follows. The field system creates flux. So, it creates stationary flux, right. Now, I am going to have the armature conductors rotated by the prime mover. Now, when the armature is rotated with the help of prime mover, I am going to see essentially as per Fleming's right hand rule, I am going to have dot and cross currents are induced, right, in the conductors. So, I was showing only two conductors, let us say A and B. Now, A is connected to the segment of split ring A, small a, and B is connected to the segment or split ring portion small b, right. Now, on A there is a brush B1 which is being pressed. So, B1 is collecting the current from A, and I am going to have B2 collecting current from small capital B. Now, so B1 will be positive and B2 will be negative, but what is going to happen is after 180 degree rotation, I am going to see that A is under the influence of south pole, because initially it so started that A was under the influence of north pole and B was under the influence of south pole. Now, after 180 degree rotation, A is under the influence of south pole and B is under the influence of north pole. Right? Now, after this happens, I will have alternating current basically in A and B, but I do not want alternating current as the output. So, A is still connected to A part of the split ring, but I am going to have to this I will have brush B2 is collecting current from this particular portion. But I am going to have essentially as far as B is concerned, I am going to have B is connected to the B portion of the split ring, but I am going to connect the current from here through brush number B1. So, B1 will always be positive, which is under the influence of south pole. So, all I can say is brushes are basically going to be affiliated to a particular pole. So, I can say basically B1 is always affiliated to north pole and B2 is always affiliated to south pole. This entire thing is possible because of commutator and brush arrangement. So, we will try to look at the winding arrangement slightly. There are two types of winding that are used in DC machine. One is called lap winding, the other one is called wave winding. The lap winding has the name of lap because the coils are such that, let us say this is going to be the beginning of a particular turn. It is going to go round like this and then it will come back and it will fold back or it will overlap on the coil. So, it is going to go like this. So, this is essentially the crux of lap winding. This is how it is going to be. It is overlapping repeatedly. Whereas, in wave winding, this goes progressively. So, it will not fold back, it will rather go progressively like this. So, this is essentially wave winding. After going through the whole thing, it will come back and fold back. You can imagine that if this is a cylinder, I can always cut it here and spread it out. When I spread it out, it will look somewhat like this. It will look like a rectangle. You get my point? If it is a cylinder and if I cut it and spread it, it will look like a rectangle. If this portion is A and this portion is B, so this is essentially A and this is essentially B, and when I fold it, it can become like a cylinder. So you can imagine when this winding is folding back, if I say this is A and this is B, it will essentially come closer to B. This is what is actually B. So this is going to go further and further. So lap winding essentially folds back. So this is essentially lap winding, whereas I am going to have essentially this is going progressively further and further. So this is essentially wave winding. So when I look at lap winding and wave winding like this, let me draw one winding structure for a 4-pole DC machine, lap wound, and let us say I am going to have 12 slots. You understand what is a slot? In the rotor we showed like this, right? This is how the stampings are. So this is essentially a slot inside which conductors are placed. So here I am talking about a 12 slot DC machine. So I am going to just erase this. So if I take a 12 slot DC machine and I am going to say 2 conductors per slot. So if I am going to talk about a slot like this, in this slot I am going to have one conductor at the back, one conductor at the front. So this is essentially 2 conductors per slot. This is how it is going to be. Okay. So let me try to draw this particular winding, lap winding for a DC machine. So let me say maybe I am going to have a north pole like this. After that I am going to have a south pole. Again I am going to have a north pole. And I am going to have a south pole. Please understand, this is essentially stator. Whatever I am talking about is stator poles. Now I am going to have 4 poles and 12 slots. So there will be 3 slots per pole. So let us say I am going to have a conductor here, another conductor here, and third conductor here. I have to show the back coil and front coil. So I am going to have the back coil dotted and front coil, front conductor solid. So I am essentially showing conductors like this. This is how the conductors are. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. And similarly, I am going to have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So similarly, I am going to have the conductors that are put at the background. So those are shown with dotted lines. Those are shown with dotted lines like this. So I am going to have essentially here also the conductors which are shown with dotted line. Okay. So let me number them also correctly. This is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7, this is 8, this is 9, and I am going to have 10 here, 11 here, and 12 here. So please understand, previously whatever I had shown that this cylinder is cut and then spread out. The same A and B let me show here. So this is the A portion and this is the B portion. So it is essentially cut out and spread out cylinder. Now because it is a lap winding, whatever starts from north pole, it has to actually go and end up in a south pole winding. So I can say if I am going to have a voltage generated like this in north pole, I will have on the other side voltage generated like this on the south pole. This is how it is. Now these two are connected together. You can very well see that they are connected in series, right. So I am going to connect like this in series. This is how it is connected. This is the north pole side voltage generation. This is the south pole side voltage generation. Okay. Now, this is north pole. This has come out like this. It has to go back essentially and it will end up in this. So, you can understand that from 1 it has gone into 4 backward conductor, from 4 it has come back to 3. So, backward side pitch is 2 slots behind, that is 4 minus 2 is 2. So, this is essentially 2 slots behind, whereas this is 3 slot forward. Okay. Now, it has come to 3, 2, from 2 it has to come to 5, 2 plus 3, 5. Now, from 5 it will come back and it will go back to 3. Now, from 3 it will go progressively in the front to 6. From 6 it will come back to 4. So, it has to come back to 4. From 4 it will go to 4 plus 3, 7. From 7 it will go back to 5. From 5 it will go like this, 5 plus 3 is 8. So, it is going to 8 and 8 minus 6, 8 minus 2 is 6. So, it is going to 6. From 6 plus 3 it will go to 9. From 9 it will go back to 7. So, let me complete the drawing. 7 plus 3, 10, 10 minus 2, 8. 8 plus 3, 11. From 11 it will go back to 9. From 9 it will again go to 12. From 12 it will go back to 10. Now, from 10 it should go to 13. 13 is actually 1 because it is folding back, right. So, from 10 it will go to 13. So, I should say 1 the backward conductor. So, if I call this as A, this should also be A. From here this is 13, 13 minus 2. So, it should go back to 11. So, I should show this as B, this should also be B. Let us say this is C. So, it should come back to 11, it should go back to 11 minus 2, 11 plus 2 that is 11 plus 3 that is 14, 14 is actually equal to 2. So, this is going to be C. Now, from here this is 2. So, if this is equivalent to 14, 14 minus 2 is 12. So, it is going to go back to this place which is 12. So, this will be D, this will also be D, right. Now, from here it has to go back to, this is the front side again. So, 2 plus 3 which is actually 2 is 14, 14 minus 2 is 12. So, it has to go back here, right. So, this is going to be, let us say, E, right. So, this is going to be E. So, this will go back to E here essentially. So, that is essentially E. So, it will essentially end up here as E. So, this is how it is completely the winding is made. So, let me draw the commutator segments also. So, these are going to be the commutator segments which are coming up like this, right. So, I can say this is 1, this is 2, this is mica, this is 3, this is 4, this is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, and this will be actually 12, right, which will be connected to the next one which is coming out. We have not still shown what is coming out of here. So that should also be connected elsewhere. So this is how the entire thing is going to be connected. Now if I assume that all the currents in North Pole are actually coming this way and all the currents in the South Pole will be going upward like this, right. So you will have 6 conductors carrying current upward, 6 conductors carrying current downward. So if I am connecting commutator segment 1 like this, let me look for where both conductors are carrying the current in either downward direction or upward direction. Please see here, this is carrying current in upward direction, this is also carrying current in upward direction. So I am going to connect one brush here. So the brush is going to carry current in upward direction. So if there is a brush here, I will also have a brush here. Let me see how the currents are here. This is North Pole. So I am going to have all the current in downward direction. So if I look at this, this is connected to conductor number 9, backward conductor. This is connected to conductor number 7. Both of them are carrying current in the downward direction. This is carrying the current in the upward direction. So by just extension, I should be able to draw a brush here and one more brush here. This is how it is connected. So if I try to look at this, this current is actually going inward and this current is going outward. So if I am thinking of it as a source, this will be plus and this will be minus. Please imagine if I am going to have a source and I am connecting a load here, I will be connecting the current like this. So from plus the current is emanating, in the minus the current is reaching. So that's why I am calling this as plus and this as minus. Okay. Between the plus and minus, if I look at it, let me try to look at the coil. This is one coil, right. This is going like this. This is the second coil which is going through 5 and this is the third coil which is going through 6. So 4, 5 and 6 coils are connected between 1 plus and 1 minus. This is 1 plus, this is 1 minus, this is 4, 5, 6. Similarly, I am going to have, if I try to look between these two, I will have actually 7, 8, 9 connected like this. 3 coils will be connected like this and I will have a brush here which will be actually a positive brush again. Okay. And between this plus and another minus which is going to be connected actually in commutator segment number 9, I am going to have 3 more coils connected which will be 10, 11 and 12. 3 coils will be connected. Obviously between these two I will be having 1, 2, 3. These are the coils connected. So what is going to happen is, if this is minus and this is minus, these two will be connected together and similarly this is plus and this is plus, these two will be connected together. This is how they will be connected together. So I can say basically just redrawing the whole thing, I should be able to draw it somewhat like this. This is the plus brush, this is the plus brush. This is going to be the minus brush and this is going to be the minus brush, right. Now these two are connected together, similarly these two are short circuited together. As we showed it earlier, between these two there are 3 coils which are 4, 5, 6. Between these two there are 3 coils which are 7, 8, 9. Between these two there are 3 coils which are going to be 10, 11 and 12. And between these two there are going to be 3 coils which are 1, 2 and 3. Now the load will be connected between the plus and minus. So I am going to have essentially a current emanating from here, going through the load and going back ultimately to the minus. So This is minus, isn't it? I have shown the current direction wrongly. So, I am going to have the current flowing here like this. Let me erase this. Let me erase this as well. So, I can just redraw this saying that from here the load is connected and this is going to be my plus. So, I am going to have the current flowing this way and from plus the current is going to emanate like this. This is how the entire load is connected. Okay? Now, I can redraw this somewhat like this, that this is my positive bus and this is my negative bus, and I am going to have 3 coils connected here, 3 coils connected here. So, I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, 9 and 10, 11, 12. It is all connected together. Now, from here the current is going to emanate and I am going to have the resistance connected like this. This is the load, right. This very clearly tells me that there are 4 parallel paths in the current. If I may call this as I by 4, this is I by 4, this is another I by 4 and this is I by 4 and the total current drawn here is I. So, the current supplied to the load is equally divided among the number of parallel paths, and here the number of parallel paths is going to be equal to the number of poles. The way the winding is arranged in lap winding, this is the norm. Whereas, if I try to look at the wave winding, I am going to have 1 positive brush and 1 negative brush. That is it. And because the winding is going progressively like what I showed here, I am going to have many coils connected together like this. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coils will be connected here, another 6 coils will be connected here, if it is a wave winding. So, this is going to be positive and this is going to be negative. Irrespective of the number of poles, I will have only 2 parallel paths. This is going to supply the current here, output, and I am going to have essentially the current returning like this. So, here is my load. So, this is actually my wave winding. So, in wave winding, always I will have number of parallel paths equal to 2. Here, because I have only 3 coils connected in series, if I look at the voltage, it is essentially V1 plus V2 plus V3. Whereas here I am going to have V1 plus V2 until V6. So, wave winding voltage is higher, whereas current is lower. In this particular case, I am going to have voltage is lower, but current is going to be higher. So, normally a high voltage low current machine, we will use wave winding, whereas low voltage high current machine, we will use wave winding. Okay? So, these are the 2 different types of winding normally we adopt. So, we will look at actually the working of the generator and the working of the motor in the next class. So, we will take up specifically generator first, then we will go into the motor. Okay?